Hello, and this is Delia, and I'm on the going on the fourth part of the awakening. We're still on chapter 6. Okay, so we're going to start off from here because I messed up in some of this. Hello, was that her own voice, so quiet and self-assured? His eyes were green as oak leaves in summer. Are you having a good time? She said. I am now. He didn't say it, but she knew it was what he was thinking. She could see it in the way he stared at her. She had never been so sure of her power. Except that actually he didn't look as if he were having a good time. He looked stricken, in pain, as if he couldn't take one more minute of this. The band was starting up a slow dance, and he was still staring at her, drinking her in, those green eyes darkening, going black with desire. She had this feeling that he might jerk her to him and kiss her hand without ever even saying a word. Would you like to dance? She said softly. I'm playing with fire, with something I don't understand, she thought suddenly, and in that instant she realized that she was frightened. Her heart began to pound violently. It was as if those green eyes spoke to some part of her that was buried deep beneath the surface, and that part was screaming danger at her. Some instinct older than civilization was telling her to run and to flee. She never moved. The same force that was terrifying her was holding her there. This is out of control, she thought suddenly. Whatever was happening here was beyond her understanding, was nothing normal or sane. But there was no stopping it now. And even while frightened, she was reveling it. She was reveling in it. It was the most intense moment she'd ever experienced with a boy. But nothing at all was happening. He was just gazing at her, as if hypnotized. And she was gazing back, while the energy shimmered between them like heat lightning. She saw his eyes go darker, defeated, and felt the wild leap of her own heart as he slowly stretched out one hand. And then it all shattered. Why, Elena, how sweet you look, said a voice. And Elena's vision was dazzled with gold. It was Caroline. Her auburn hair, rich and glossy, and her skin tanned to a perfect bronze. She was wearing a dress of pure gold that showed an incredibly daring amount of that perfect skin. She slipped one bare arm through Stefan's and smiled lazily up at him. They were stunning together, like a couple of international models slumming at a high school dance, far more glamorous and sophisticated than anyone else in the room. And that little dress is so pretty, continued Caroline, while Elena's mind kept on running on automatic. The casually possessive arm linked with Stefan's told her everything, where Caroline had been at lunch these past weeks, what she had been up to all this time. I told Stefan we simply had to stop by for a moment, but we're not going to stay long. So you don't mind if I keep him to myself for the dances, do you? Elena was strangely calm now, her mind a humming blank. She said no, of course, she didn't mind, and watched Caroline move away, a symphony in auburn and gold. Stefan went with her. There was a circle of faces around Elena. She turned from them and came up against Matt. You knew he was coming with her? I knew she wanted him to. She's been following him around at lunchtime and after school and kind of forcing herself on him. But I see. Still held in that queer artificial calm, she scanned the crowd and saw Bonnie coming toward her and Meredith leaving her table. They'd seen then. Probably everyone had. Without a word to Matt, she moved toward them, heading instinctively for the girls' restroom. It was packed with bodies, and Meredith and Bonnie kept their remarks bright and casual while looking at her with concern. "Did you see that dress?" said Bonnie, squeezing Elena's fingers secretly. "The front must be held on with superglue. And what's she going to wear to the next dance? Cellophane?" "Handy wraps," said Meredith. She added in a low voice, "Are you okay?" "Yes." Elena could see in the mirror that her eyes were too bright and that there was one spot of color burning on each cheek. She smoothed her hair and turned away. The room emptied, leaving them in privacy. Bonnie was fiddling nervously with the bow on her at her waist now. "Maybe it isn't such a bad thing after all," she said quietly. "I mean, you haven't thought about anything else but him in weeks, nearly a month, and so maybe it's just for the best, and you can move on to other things now instead of, well, chasing him." Thought Elena. "Thank you so much for your support," she said aloud. "Now, Elena, don't be like that," Meredith put in. "She isn't trying to hurt you. She just thinks. And I suppose you think so too. Well, that's fine. I'll just go out and find myself some other things to move on to. Like some other best friends." She left them both standing here. She left them both staring after her. Outside, she threw herself into the whirl of color and music. Okay, and I'm going to stop there, and then I'll go to the next section. So I'll be back.